My childhood sweetheart discovered the tattoo on my waist. 3 letters, DOM. He thought it was the abbreviation of his name, Dominic. He raised an eyebrow and flashed a wild, carefree grin. Still can't get over me? I looked past him, toward the person behind him. At the doorway stood his younger brother, Domingo, who had just finished the college entrance exams. Chapter 1. My childhood sweetheart failed the college entrance exam and went abroad. Before leaving, he asked me to take good care of his younger brother, who was still in his final year of high school. I agreed and often went to his house to tutor Domingo. Once again, Dominic called via video while I was tutoring Domingo. Dominic was famously flirtatious and reckless. Back in the country, his parents restrained him, but abroad, he was like a wolf in a sheepfold, completely unleashed. Wild to the extreme. As expected. On the screen, Dominic was holding a sweetheart in his arms. He was strikingly handsome, with perfect bone structure, so even holding a foreign beauty didn't seem out of place. It actually looked particularly compatible. Domingo, doing homework? Domingo, on the other end of the screen, was in his school uniform, looking down at his math problems. His voice, like his appearance, was cool and distant. If Dominic was a blazing, dazzling fire, Domingo was a deep, clear spring. Domingo propped his phone on the desk, adjusting the angle so that Dominic on the other end could only see the desk covered with exercise books and a hand, knobby and defined, holding a pen. Anything, bro? Nothing. How's Helen? The boy's hand paused over the pen. What's up? Nothing. She's been avoiding me a few times, maybe sneaking away to cry? I spoke up unexpectedly. No way. On the screen, the sweetheart looked up at Dominic for a kiss, and I heard Dominic chuckle lightly. I really am popular. Every day, girls voluntarily throw themselves at me. I stayed silent for a moment. Is that so? Domingo cleared his throat and withdrew his hand from the frame. On the screen, only a messy desk remained. Bro, it's getting late. Dominic clicked his tongue. Going to sleep already? My nightlife is just getting started. All right then, Helen. Let me see you. I picked up my phone and stared at the other side. The screen was filled with flashing lights and nightlife, probably a club. Still pretending. Huh? Your eyes are already red. Dominic was in a great mood. He looked at me, paying no attention to the kissing sweetheart. Helen, do you miss me? I'll be back this weekend. Come pick me up. The phone flipped, showing only a bright white ceiling. Dominic sounded even happier. Excited to hear I'm coming back? Domingo and I stayed silent. After a long while, I whispered, all right. Hang up then, and remember to pick me up. The video ended. Domingo lifted his eyelids and asked me, Helen, more problems to solve? He had pale, cool skin, and his beautiful black eyes darkened slightly as he looked at me lazily. I nodded. Of course. I had to continue. Chapter 2. The day Dominic came back was Friday. Domingo had school, so it was just me going. In the airport lounge, I immediately spotted those familiar figures. They were all Dominic's friends. I guessed. Like me, they had come to pick him up. Helen. Long time no see. I knew Helen would come. Of course. She's Dominic's childhood sweetheart. They're really close. They smiled, but I didn't respond. I remember, didn't Helen used to like Dominic? No sooner had the words left his mouth than Dominic came rolling out his suitcase. Almost a year had passed, but he was still the same, still the most eye-catching presence in any crowd. Yes. I had liked Dominic. In my second year of high school, my adolescent heart first stirred. I was instantly drawn to the person who stood out most around me. Dominic. From the day he enrolled, all eyes were on him. Do you understand? So handsome he seemed in a league apart from everyone else. Anyway, in those grades, nobody didn't know Dominic's name. Even if they didn't know him personally, they had certainly heard of him. The super handsome student from No. 1 high school. A person so dazzling, attending school with you every day, grinning mischievously while ruffling your hair, caring about every little thing. It was hard not to fall for him. I remember one time during my period, my lower abdomen felt like it was being pierced by needles. Pain racked me, leaving me collapsed over my desk. unable to speak. The pain made me whimper softly. Then, a cup was filled with hot water. A warming pad was placed in my hand. Someone gently stroked my hair and said warmly, "Helen, I'm here." Yes, it was Dominic. He hooked his arm around my neck effortlessly. That face still stunning as ever. Of course Helen used to like me. I met his dazzling gaze, froze for a moment, and pushed away slightly. That was a long time ago. Dominic looked at me, half a meter away. His expression briefly shadowed, but it was only for a moment before he reverted to his usual mischievous grin. Finally back. "I'm taking everyone out to eat today. You all coming?" His gaze landed on me. The question felt almost unnecessary, as if directed solely at me. I sighed slightly, nodding in agreement. Chapter 3. We went to the restaurant we often went to in high school. I remembered that after the college entrance exam, we had also gathered here. A group of people flipped through the menu, looking like they were determined to make Dominic pay. The one being punished just raised an eyebrow and smiled, then instinctively tapped a corner of the menu, like it was a habitual gesture. "Remove this, Helen doesn't eat celery. You used to eat it before, not sure when you started being picky in sophomore year." He had a flashy earring on his left ear, sharp brow bones, deep eyes, ruffling my hair. He said, "So delicate." I smiled but didn't respond. Halfway through the meal, someone pushed open the door. "Dominic, didn't invite me when you came back?" The newcomer was just as dazzling as I remembered. Several people, seeing her, blurted out, "Sister-in-law." Dominic neither denied nor confirmed. When it came to relationships, he was always like this, accepting whoever came his way. Fernanda, Dominic's ex-girlfriend. No, more like ex-ex-ex-girlfriend. What a coincidence. "Sit down." He had the waiter add a chair. Fernanda sat across from me. I stared blankly at the water in front of me. Oh, I saw Fernanda online that day. Thousands of followers, a little internet celebrity. I remember one post got like hundreds of thousands of likes. Right? And you even pinned it. Fernanda. They chatted, and Fernanda's smile was dazzling. "Want to try that dish?" Dominic asked me softly, as if he hadn't heard their conversation. I shook my head. No need. I didn't want it. Fernanda took out her phone, smiling brightly at Dominic. I owe it all to Dominic for my brief fame. On the screen was a photo of the two of them in school uniforms. Dominic's deep gaze was fixed on the camera. His chiseled features stood out under the flash. Next to him, Fernanda reached for the hem of his shirt, and the photo froze at that moment. The moment I saw that photo, my heart felt like a stranded fish, struggling to breathe. Dominic smiled lightly, as if it meant nothing. The next second, Fernanda's gaze fell on me, sitting beside Dominic. No, the one who should be thanked the most is Helen. Everyone's eyes shifted to me with her words. After all, Helen took this photo. I met her smiling eyes and stayed silent. I thought about what to say, what expression to wear, so the atmosphere wouldn't become awkward. After a while, I sipped some warm water and said, "No need to thank me." Beside me, Dominic asked, "Want me to pour you some hot water?" I lowered my eyes and didn't answer. I had already said it wasn't necessary. The atmosphere eventually cooled, until someone knocked on the door. The owner recognized Dominic's familiar face and served us a dish, stir-fried celery. "Such a handsome guest, I'll remember you." "Is that your girlfriend? I used to see her with you all the time." He pointed at me. I denied it. "Just a friend." Beside me was his intense gaze. "Dominic, why are you looking at me like that? Did I say something wrong?" Fernanda picked up the conversation. "Thanks, boss. I love celery the most." Right. Fernanda loved celery, and I didn't eat it. Dominic seemed to realize something and grabbed my hand. "Helen." His palm was hot. I shook it off and set down my bowl and chopsticks. "I'm going out for a bit." Stepping outside the restaurant, Dominic sent me a message. "Are you mad?" I wasn't mad. Really. I just remembered Domingo had finished school. Chapter 4. When I picked up Domingo to go home together, Dominic was leaning on the sofa, his expression less than cheerful. "Why didn't you say anything before leaving?" I wanted to speak, Domingo zipped up his school uniform. I had Helen come pick me up. Domingo was always cool and indifferent, his expression calm and neutral. Even his words lacked emotion, merely stating facts. Dominic froze for a moment. Then, without overthinking, said hoarsely, "All right then." I tried to follow Domingo upstairs, but Dominic grabbed my hand with a force that could not be refused. "Helen, aren't you going to catch up with me?" I glanced at Domingo on the stairs and remained silent. I still need to tutor him. Why not tutor him later? Just a little while, okay? Domingo lowered his eyes, his dark gaze briefly scanning me, but he kept walking. "All right. University A isn't that busy, right? And yet you still find time to tutor him?" Dominic said. I sat a short distance away from him. "Weren't you the one who told me to pay attention to his studies?" He raised an eyebrow, pleased. Caring so much about my words? Domingo is cold and indifferent. Doesn't like to engage with others. Thank you for putting in the effort. Cold? Doesn't like to engage? I pursed my lips and said nothing. Are you angry today? Not angry. I just remembered the past, and my heart still ached tightly. Helen, you don't eat celery. Is it because of Fernanda? I lowered my eyes, my mind drifting. The year I liked Dominic the most. He was in a relationship with Fernanda, a handsome boy and beautiful girl. Everyone's eyes were on them. I remembered the day after I confessed to Dominic. Before school ended, he pinched my cheek. "I'll tell you something later." His eyes were bright, dazzling, impossible to look away from. What would Dominic tell me? A girl's wild imagination spun countless possibilities. The moment before he appeared in front of me with Fernanda, I even thought, maybe Dominic felt a little for me too. Then he appeared, hand in hand with Fernanda. They looked perfectly matched. The boy's lips were red, teeth white, smiling at me brilliantly. "Helen, this is my girlfriend," bitter and harsh in my mouth. I clutched my hand, forcing a smile. "Oh, I see. Fernanda liked celery. And that day, almost every dish contained celery." I chewed numbly. When I got home, my stomach ached uncontrollably, thinking of his gentle smile. I cried while emptying my stomach. From that day on, I never ate celery again. No, not because of Fernanda, it was because of you. Then you. Before I could finish, I was interrupted. Upstairs, Domingo leaned against the railing, expression calm and unreadable. Looking down, from this angle, he looked especially imposing. "Helen, aren't you coming?" His gaze landed on my lips, carrying an unspoken meaning. I bit my lip. "Coming." Dominic tugged at me, about to say something. I interrupted. "Dominic, I really have let go. I used to see him as a beam of light. If Fernanda hadn't told me that the warming pad came from Dominic via her, I think I would still have secretly liked Dominic, keeping it to myself. After all, he was Dominic, standing there. I liked him, but I could no longer deceive myself. My light now shone on someone else. No ifs. Dominic's gaze was probing, resting on my face, as if he wanted to say something but held back. Finally, he smirked. "Good that you've let go. I was worried you wouldn't be able to move on." His phone vibrated. I saw the name on it. Fernanda. Dominic looked at my pale face, his smile playful. "I have to go. Something came up." That smile carried a hint of disdain, as if to say, "Helen, what are you pretending? You obviously liked me to death." I climbed the stairs. At the doorway, Domingo was leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, waiting for me. A slight smile hung at the corner of his lips, but there was no warmth in his eyes. Step by step, he walked toward me. His indifferent gaze swept over my brows, eyes, and lips. Casually, he said, "Helen, do you have that much to say?" Chapter 5. Before Domingo could finish speaking, I collapsed into his arms. A sharp cramp gripped my lower abdomen, leaving me completely weak. The person who had just been so cold now changed expression in an instant, concern nearly spilling out of his eyes like a tangible thing. "Helen, what's wrong?" Just now, he seemed like a timid puppy putting on a bluff. I smelled the faint scent of green oranges on him, and somehow the pain felt a little lessened. "Old problem," I murmured. Period pain when it wasn't acting up. It was fine, but when it flared, I felt like it could take my life. It had started aching faintly when I was talking to Dominic, but now it had fully erupted. Domingo understood and carried me into the room. A princess Carrie. At first, I was a little shocked. I hadn't expected someone so slender to possess so much hidden strength. Warm packs. Brown sugar water. He was efficient and practiced. I remembered the first time he had been awkward and unsure. That day, I came to tutor him as usual. I had even taken medicine beforehand. After finishing a sequence problem, my lower abdomen began to hurt. By the time we got to solid geometry, I couldn't even speak. Domingo, normally calm no matter what happened, saw me curled up in pain like a shrimp and, confused, pulled a biology book from his backpack. He flipped through it for a long while, nothing. Finally, he remembered something and placed his hand on my lower abdomen. But Domingo was always cold, his hand was freezing. I shivered. Then the boy stammered an apology. Sorry. In a daze, I heard the sound of running water. Then, a pair of warm hands covered mine. He had been repeatedly warming his hands in water. So silly. Silly, but cute. The warmth of the embrace pulled me back from my thoughts. Helen, feeling better? I nuzzled against Domingo's shoulder, with a hint of playful whining. If you kiss me, it won't hurt anymore. He carefully leaned to my lips, like a little chick pecking at rice. Once, then again, he murmured softly, no pain, no pain. I curved my lips into a small smile. It was the third month of being with Domingo. I felt like I liked him even more. Chapter 6. That night, I stayed over at his house, while Dominic didn't return all night. When Dominic came back, Domingo and I were sitting at the dining table, having breakfast. He looked a little tired, a faint lipstick mark on his crisp white collar, another night of indulgence and excess. I supposed. Helen, you didn't go home? Dominic said, pressing his fingers to his brow. Helen wasn't feeling well yesterday. Domingo answered for me. Did your old problem act up again? Dominic sat beside me, concern in his eyes. Should I go get you a warming pad? I dodged. No, it's fine. The pain was already gone. Bro, we have some at home, Domingo said, watching Dominic beside me and speaking slowly. And what about the brown sugar water? Dominic's eyes were beautiful, slender and deep, the corners slightly downturned. When he smiled, it was like peach blossoms blooming in spring. Eyes so affectionate they could make you melt just by looking. As people said, back when I liked Dominic the most, I never dared to meet his gaze. I always felt there was a galaxy in his eyes. In that moment of eye contact, the night in his eyes nearly swallowed me. Later, I realized there was no galaxy at all. It was my own feelings that decorated the moonlight for him. The dazzling eyes in my memory were now bloodshot. Before Dominic could finish speaking, I interrupted him. You should rest first. After all, years of friendship. He saw the concern in my eyes and smiled suddenly. Helen cares about me the most. His tone was lingering, gentle enough to nearly drown someone in warmth. But I was already immune. At the table, it was just me and Domingo. The boy, with extremely low pressure, poked at the bun in his bowl. I curved my lips. Eat properly. Then he puffed out his cheeks, stuffed full, like a hamster hoarding food. I pinched his face slightly and whispered, for him, it's a friend's concern. For you, it's a lover's concern. Different. The eyes of the sulky little hamster lit up. In fact, before Dominic asked me to look after Domingo, my impression of him had been roughly a brilliant student, quiet, and cold younger brother. After all, Dominic had skipped grades in elementary school, been specially admitted to junior high, and firmly placed in the advanced rocket class in high school. It was expected that we couldn't get along well with him, but after spending time with him, I realized Domingo was actually very cute. When solving problems, he would accidentally draw a black line across his face with a pen. When I laughed at him, he would look up, confused. He'd hold a classical novel in his hands, but actually be reading 100,000 cold jokes tucked behind it. Even when I exposed him, he would still earnestly argue. Cold jokes help relieve stress and cheer the mind. When he confessed to me, He was serious, not childish at all. When I rejected him because he was still a student, he replied earnestly, "Helen, I am already an adult. I know what I'm doing. Study is not everything, and neither is love. I won't neglect my studies for love, nor suppress my feelings for academics." I was speechless, stunned for a moment before replying. "Then what about those who fail the college entrance exam because of relationships?" Domingo said. "It wasn't love that ruined them, it was them ruining themselves." I couldn't argue. After all, he seemed correct. One day, during a break from solving problems, he looked up at me and said, "Helen, I like you." Then he buried himself in his formulas again. Another day, after finishing memorizing poems, I looked at him and suddenly said, "I like you too." And then, we were together. But since Domingo was still a student, our relationship was never made public. A boy who loved cold jokes always waited for the college entrance exam to end, hoping I would give him a proper title. Chapter 7. At the end of May, Domingo was preparing for the college entrance exam, and I couldn't help but feel nervous too. Dominic, sitting cross-legged, said casually, "It's fine if you don't do well. Worst case, you go abroad." I suddenly got angry. "Don't say things like that," Domingo quietly responded. "I'll get into University A." I chimed in with him in agreement. Dominic stayed silent, idly playing with the lighter in his hand. After Domingo returned to his room to study, the living room fell into a heavy silence. The atmosphere was suffocating. Dominic's gaze swept toward me. "Helen, are you still upset with me?" I quickly knew what he meant. Upset? Not really. Just annoyed. A long time ago, Dominic and I had promised to attend University together. I thought that even if he started dating, it wouldn't affect our agreement. But in the last month before the exam, Dominic slacked off. At that time, he seemed to have had a fight with Fernanda. He developed feelings for a junior girl. He pursued her passionately. During the final review before the exam, he didn't attend a single class, busy celebrating the little junior's birthday. But not long after winning her over, he broke up, lazily telling me, "It's really nothing." Getting her was just like that. Everyone thought Dominic failed the exam because of love, but I knew better. I remembered what Domingo said. It wasn't love that ruined them, it was them ruining themselves. Even before the exam, I knew Dominic was under immense pressure. I tutored him often, tried to help him cope, but after repeated test scores with no progress, he avoided me unilaterally. It wasn't until after the exam that our relationship eased somewhat. Later, I learned that he had failed the exam and was planning to go abroad. I realized I was just angry that Dominic had given up on himself. I had known Dominic since elementary school. We had shared many important moments of life together. During my adolescence, he was the one I liked. Now, I had let go, but he remained a friend I treasured dearly. "Dominic, I'm not upset with you. The exam isn't everything, but I really hope you won't keep going like this." "Like this?" His tone was sharp. I stayed silent. "Helen, you think I'm decadent, don't you? Does your house lie across the Pacific, that you feel entitled to lecture me just because you like me?" At the end, he lifted his eyelids, a sarcastic smile tugging at his lips. "Don't you feel pathetic yourself? Even though I'm so decadent, you still like me?" He pulled out a pack of cigarettes. Dominic had started smoking too. In the past, on the way home from school, along streets scattered with sycamore leaves, someone would always light a spark without a care, exhaling smoke, and Dominic would pull my hand. Striding forward, the wind would lift the corner of his school jacket. I stood behind him, watching his back, momentarily feeling as if we were eloping. The wind that lifted his jacket wrapped the most splendid joys of my youth. He had clearly said he hated smokers before. Now that same wind returned, lifting the boy's jacket again, along with the acrid smoke, choking me. In the swirling haze, I seemed to see Dominic walking farther and farther away, until at last, his figure disappeared at the edge of the smoke. Along with it, the last trace of my attachment to him, all gone. For some reason, I suddenly wanted to cry. For the girl I used to be, and for the Dominic I used to know. "I won't care about you anymore." I forgot, over mountains and rivers, We had long since gone separate ways. Chapter 8. We parted on bad terms. Until Domingo finished his college entrance exam. One summer day, Dominic asked me if I wanted to go together. I looked at my phone and realized some of our high school classmates had organized a gathering. Instinctively, I looked at Domingo sitting on the sofa. Dominic quickly said, "Domingo should come too. After the exam, go out and have some fun. Relax a bit." I stared without blinking at the slender figure in a black t-shirt on the sofa, waiting for his response. Domingo didn't even look at me, fiddling with his phone, his voice as cold and distant as ever. "Sure," I quickly replied. "Then I'll go too." The person on the sofa paused, still not looking up, but I noticed the tips of his ears seemed red. Domingo and I had argued. To be precise, I had upset Domingo. It started the day I went with him to school to take graduation photos. On the way back, I ran into a senior from university. At that time, Domingo was holding my hand, swaying along. "Helen, now you should give me a title, right?" His voice rose, like a little dog wagging its tail frantically. Seeing that familiar figure, I immediately let go of Domingo's hand. "Hello, senior." The senior looked at Domingo beside me and asked curiously, "Who's this?" I glanced at Domingo in his school uniform, looking so innocent, and felt a sudden pang of shame. If anyone knew I was dating a high school student, a guilty feeling rose in me. I coughed. "This is my younger brother." Domingo's eyes widened. His expression hurt. From that day on, Domingo ignored me. I held his hand. He coldly pulled away. I hugged him. He pushed me off. I kissed him. He didn't push me away. But when I finished, he turned his face aside. It had been like this for almost a week. I definitely have to coax and kiss my boyfriend. Chapter 9. They rented a seaside villa. Everyone there was a familiar face. I hadn't expected Fernanda to be there too. Dominic instinctively looked at me, but I was focused on Domingo's back. In the end, he said nothing. When the group met, Domingo caught their attention. "Isn't this Dominic's genius little brother? He went to no one high school too, right? Damn. Number one? Even if they added 100 points to my entrance exam, I still wouldn't get in. Why is everyone in your family so handsome?" Fernando looked at Domingo and joked with Dominic. "If I had known you had a brother like this, I might not have been with you." But Domingo was always cold to outsiders. He just smiled faintly. Everyone paid no mind and went back to their own conversations. During the meal, because Fernando was there, celery was still on the table. I took a bite of rice and glanced toward Domingo. Distracted, I picked up a piece of celery and chewed it. Dominic froze, quickly grabbing a napkin. "Helen, spit that out." A few classmates chimed in. "Yeah, Helen, you don't eat celery, right?" Fernando looked over, resting her chin on her hand. "So Helen doesn't eat celery? No wonder that time when Dominic and I invited you to dinner, your face looked so pale. I thought you were about to faint." Dominic shot a glance at Fernanda. She smiled and stayed quiet. I took the napkin from Dominic and smiled at everyone. "It's fine, I can eat it now." The celery that used to taste like chewing cardboard now had a faint sweetness. I could eat celery. After all, it was long behind me, wasn't it? Dominic's expression immediately darkened. "Actually, celery is pretty tasty." As I said tasty, I looked at Domingo. Domingo's face instantly turned red, and he buried his head silently. I didn't know why, but from that moment, Dominic's mood stayed low. I wondered, did me saying celery was tasty bother him? After the meal, they suggested having a little drink. I joined in. Alcohol is a magical thing. It makes people reveal their hearts. After drinking, the conversation flowed more freely. Fernando looked at Dominic, admiration still in her eyes. "Dominic, are you single now?" Dominic glanced at me from the side and nodded. "Yes, I'm single." As he spoke, he poured me a glass of hot water. I didn't drink it, pushing it aside. Then I downed a glass of beer and proceeded to pester my boyfriend on my phone. "Domingo, I was wrong. Please pay attention to me, baby. If you want a title, I'll tell everyone you're my boyfriend." "Okay." After a while, Domingo looked down and tapped the phone. In big letters, Yuri drunk. I sent another. What do I have to do for you to forgive me? Heartbroken little dog replied, humph. Then he sent a sticker of a little dog with its paws on its hips. Then Helen? After all these years, is there any situation now? For some reason, the topic shifted to me. Fernanda was asking. I was about to answer when Dominic spoke for me. What situation could she have? He thought of something and curved his lips. Dominic's good friend continued. Yeah, Helen only liked Dominic, right? What other situation could there be? They used to stick together all the time, going to school and coming back together. If Helen had feelings, Dominic would know. Fernanda raised an eyebrow. No wonder when I asked Helen to take photos for us, her hands were shaking like that. It turns out she had always liked you. Chapter 10. I paused for a moment. I remembered that afternoon when Fernanda dragged Dominic over to me, asking me to take a photo of the two of them together. Dominic looked at me helplessly, as if he couldn't refuse her, and handed me his phone. Countdown, 3, 2, 1. My trembling fingers pressed the shutter. Behind the lens, their hands were intertwined. The air was thick with sweetness, brimming with happiness. Fernanda rested her head on Dominic's shoulder, smiling at me. Helen, aren't you going to bless us? I looked up and met Dominic's indulgent gaze. It felt like a lump of damp cotton had lodged in my chest, suffocating me, making it almost impossible to speak. In my memory, I pinched my hand and said, "You two must be happy," Dominic said. It was like glass cracking bit by bit, trembling with a loud shatter. Then, I heard the sound of a breaking heart. Fernanda, don't say things like that. Dominic's tone was sharp. Honestly, this wound had long since healed. My heart was calm and unmoved. I shook my head. It's fine. It's long past. But back then, Helen was really good to Dominic, tutoring him, even helping with homework. And Dominic would fall asleep in class. After class, Helen would patiently go over every little point with him. One time, when Dominic was sick, she skipped classes just to take care of him. Dominic seemed lost in memories, his eyes full of nostalgia. I had no interest in dwelling on it. All I noticed was Domingo's expression growing darker beside me. I spoke up to interrupt. It's all in the past. Why bring it up? I don't like Dominic anymore. It was nothing. After all, kindness is reciprocal. In senior year, every second counted. Every lunch break I ran to wash my hair. Dominic would do my duty tasks for me. That time, I forgot my water card. Returning to the classroom, I saw him standing at the podium, drowsily wiping it with a cloth. The sunlight fell on him. He saw me and smiled. I thought he would be my light forever. We had indeed been close once, but time is like the wind, scattering us long ago. Why cling to what has passed? Dominic grabbed my hand. Helen, are you sulking? I had sulked before, but not now. A long, long time ago, when I learned Dominic was dating someone else, I sulked, refusing to talk to him, refusing to go home with him, refusing to speak. A few days later, every little smile and frown of his carried grievance. Helen, why aren't you talking to me? You're my best friend. I looked into Dominic's eyes, almost drowning again in his warmth. Finally, gritting my teeth, I pulled away. All right, best friends, just friends. He looked at me, searching for evidence that I was secretly not sincere, but found nothing on my calm face. No, I really have let go. Then, I looked openly into his eyes, just like when I confessed to Dominic, and he said he only saw me as a friend. I told Dominic, I only see you as a friend now. After saying this, I noticed his gaze unfocused, but I ignored his words and continued, and besides, I already have a boyfriend. Who? I was about to speak. My phone vibrated. Heartbroken little dog, no. Heartbroken little dog, I'm shy. I looked up. He still wore that indifferent expression, only his ears were flushed bright red. I cleared my throat. I'll tell you later. My wrist was gripped tightly. Dominic's gaze was frighteningly intense. Who is it? His grip was strong. My wrist ached. I struggled in vain, then saw his beautiful eyes reddening more and more. Helen. Who is it? Dominic. You're drunk. His friends coaxed him back into the room. Chapter 11. The scene was awkward. I sighed. Alcohol really was dangerous. Once someone drinks, they can easily lose control. Dominic didn't want to leave, but in the end, he was carried away. At the last moment, he knocked over the beer in front of me. My top was soaked through. Thankfully, one of the girls with us had brought a change of clothes. I stood up, preparing to go to the bathroom. Behind me, Domingo, using the excuse of going back to his room, followed step by step. At a quiet corner, the boy took off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. I stopped, holding his hand. Are you still mad? I only let go so that classmate wouldn't think I was taking advantage. I won't ever do that again. Domingo paused, then intertwined his fingers with mine, his voice warm and happy. Helen, I'm not mad anymore. I'm glad you're willing to explain. After a little while of affection, I went to change clothes. Through the bathroom door, I handed my soaking t-shirt to Domingo. Seeing me in the cropped top, his gaze darkened. A pair of cold hands slowly covered my lower back. Like a clash of ice and fire, I inhaled sharply, trembling all over. Helen, how about not wearing this? I don't want others to see. As he spoke, he took off the white t-shirt, revealing his lean upper body. Helen wears my clothes. My gaze fell on his abdomen. The restless annoyance from the soaked clothes vanished completely. It's fine, I'll just put your jacket over it outside. Only then did he reluctantly take my wet t-shirt to wash. A tall, long-legged boy carrying a small piece of clothing, no matter how you looked at it. It was cute. I waited for Domingo in the bathroom, when someone knocked. Unexpectedly, it was Fernanda. This was her second time coming to me proactively. Back in sophomore year, after she started dating Dominic, she had come to me once. Her first words then had been, "Stay away from my boyfriend." I lowered my eyes and agreed. The shame almost felt unbearable. Helen, how could you like someone else's boyfriend? Even though I had liked Dominic long ago. Later, I started distancing myself from him. It had all failed, because the boy, with his dazzling eyes, had told me I was his best friend and I couldn't ignore him. The next time he appeared with me in front of Fernanda. Fernanda said nothing. I guess Dominic must have told her something. What exactly? I didn't know, and I didn't want to know. Helen, Dominic likes you. Her tone was certain. The Dominic in my memories always joked and laughed. This was the first time I saw him lose composure. Even when we broke up, he just smiled and said we should part amicably. Sometimes I felt he never really loved me. He has always loved you. He just didn't realize it. I think I should let go. I'm sorry I lied back then. That warming pad wasn't taken from me by him. He bought it at school himself. Wishing you both happiness. I interrupted. Just wish me happiness. Between Dominic and me, there was no us anymore, and you'll meet someone better. Wish you happiness. After saying this, she smiled brightly at me. I will, of course, be happy. I adjusted my collar. Thoughts scattered. What was I thinking? Not about the past. I was just wondering, why hasn't Domingo come back yet? I missed him. Chapter 12. Helen. I was startled. How did he get here? Before I could react, a strong force pressed me against the wall. A pair of burning hot hands lightly caressed the small of my back. I could feel his intense gaze scanning me as well. A question, tinged with the scent of alcohol. Still stubbornly saying, you only see me as a friend, then why did you write my name? Helen, do you still have feelings for me? Because I pushed him away and turned, my face already tinged with anger. Yes, there was a tattoo on my lower back. 3 letters, DOM, but it had nothing to do with Dominic. Because it was, my thoughts were interrupted. I glanced behind Dominic. At the doorway stood Domingo, bare-chested, his tone heavy. Helen, just wear my shirt. I don't want you to. As he spoke, he noticed Dominic in the bathroom. The 3 of us stared at each other. Dominic's eyes were reddening more and more. I realized he must have seen it. The tattoo on Domingo's lower abdomen, similar in style to mine. 2 English cursive letters, HL, the initials of my name. Naturally, this explained the owner of the letters on my lower back. His? Dominic's voice was hoarse, almost frightening. When did this happen? A long time ago, Dominic. Every time you called, you couldn't see my face. Behind the screen, I was sitting on Domingo's lap, kissing him. Red eyes were never for you. They belonged to Domingo. Kisses fierce enough to almost consume me. I said. A long time ago. Dominic closed his eyes, thinking, before I came back to the country? Even longer than that. Domingo and I rarely hid our relationship in front of him. He was simply too confident. Confident that I would always like him. Confident that the cold and distant younger brother had no other intentions toward me. He seemed to realize something and suddenly laughed wryly. So that time, Domingo and I were in front of the camera, our lips swollen, even bleeding. Dominic on the other side of the screen laughed shamelessly. What were you two doing? You both actually bit yourselves at the same time. He traced back through the memories, slowly discovering the traces of love between Domingo and me that he had overlooked. Finally, he regretted having asked me to take care of his brother. Dominic, what's between us is long over. I hope you won't bring it up. I love Domingo so much, so very much, Helen, but I can't let it go. Domingo cut him off, stepped beside me, and pulled me close, tightly. Bro, you're drunk. Dominic said nothing, leaving in silence. His footsteps staggered, almost faltering. I thought I saw tears fall from him, but there was no time to think. The boy's cold hand slowly rubbed my lower back, sending shivers across my skin. He was erasing the traces Dominic had just left. Then, his fierce kiss. Helen, I'm late. He said that if he had washed up faster, he could have come back sooner, not letting me suffer. Yes, my little nightly dog. Chapter 13. When we went downstairs again, Domingo and I were holding hands tightly. They finally learned who the boyfriend I mentioned was. The atmosphere inevitably turned strange. Fernando was the first to smile. I didn't expect it to be him. You two absolutely have to be happy. Then came one blessing after another. Eventually, the mood softened. Only Dominic sat blankly on the sofa, silent, as if he had lost his soul. Before everyone left, one classmate took out a camera, suggesting we take a group photo. The camera froze the moment, Domingo beside me, while I laughed brightly. Making a peace sign, Dominic stood in the corner, looking deeply depressed. Before the gathering ended, I borrowed the camera and handed it to Dominic. Help us take a picture together. My request was sincere. The person before me took the camera with trembling hands. Countdown, 3, 2, 1. Dominic absent-mindedly pressed the shutter. In the photo, Domingo and I were holding hands tightly, intimately close. I looked into those dimmed eyes and asked, Dominic, won't you bless us? I wish you happiness. Thank you, bro. It was like glass cracking little by little, trembling with a loud shatter. Then, once again, I heard the sound of a breaking heart. This time, it wasn't mine. Chapter 14. Naturally, Domingo got into University A. He did not betray his hard work, nor did he waste the year I spent helping him study. Just after the end of June, Dominic fled abroad as if escaping. At the time, Domingo and I were traveling out of town, so we did not see him off. A long time later, one day at 8 in the morning, I received a text message. Helen, I'll wait for you forever. I didn't reply. Downstairs, someone was waiting for me with breakfast in hand. A white shirt, clean and bright. The moment he saw me, his eyes lit up. Helen, I missed you so much. I buried myself in his arms, breathing in his faint green-orange scent. Untouched by smoke or alcohol, my heart finally felt anchored. I missed you too. When you love someone too much, even a brief separation feels unbearable. Going to the library again today? Of course, Helen. I found another solution to that problem. The sunlight was perfect, and the air was fresh. Watching the boy's focused expression, I only felt my heart overflowing, completely filled with him. We held hands tightly, never to part again. Go forward boldly. The right person will always be waiting in your future. Extra Chapter 1. One night, I once received a call from overseas. After the line connected, the other side remained silent. I said hello, and the call was hurriedly hung up. Before I could think about it further, someone wrapped his arms around me from behind. The two black tattoos pressed tightly together. He loved this position. Dom covered HL, and also covered my trembling. Helen, you're not focusing. The fierce force crashing against me left me unable to argue. I struggled, trying to run away, only to be pulled back by a slightly cool hand. The boy's tone sounded aggrieved, yet his movements only grew heavier. Helen, you're not allowed to run. Extra Chapter 2. After Dominic went abroad, he rarely returned. I heard he studied overseas with reckless intensity. Whenever he video called Domingo, he never spoke much, but always liked to ask one thing before hanging up: how I was doing. I especially hated that question. Every time he asked Domingo, "Are you and Helen still together?" Domingo's expression remained calm and natural, but after the call ended, he would bully me terribly. "Helen, say you'll never leave me." If I refused, he would become stiff like wood, making me fall down from soft clouds. Only after I coaxed him with endless sweet words would he continue. So wicked. Extra Chapter 3. Many years later, the next news Dominic received about Helen was her wedding announcement with Domingo. Having not returned home for years, he rushed back overnight. When he appeared at the wedding banquet, weary from travel, he saw the woman he loved wearing her reception dress, holding on to his younger brother's arm as they toasted table after table. The moment she saw him, Helen's eyes brightened slightly. For that instant, a foolish hope appeared in his heart. Could it be that Helen still had feelings for him? But in the next second, his hope crashed from the sky and shattered completely, because under his expectant gaze, he heard Helen call him, just like Domingo did, "Bro." At the table, he heard someone say the newlyweds were a perfect match, talented and beautiful together. He drank glass after glass of alcohol, only feeling a huge hole ripped open in his chest, the wind endlessly pouring into it. Before, people had also said he and Helen looked perfect together. It was the owner of that restaurant he often visited. He thought carefully about how he answered back then. He had said, "I only see her as a friend. She's like a younger sister to me." Boundless regret flooded his heart. Suddenly, he cried uncontrollably. Everyone at the wedding said the groom's older brother was crying because he was too happy about his younger brother getting married. Dominic knew that wasn't why he cried. He cried because the girl he loved had married someone else. But no one cared, because everyone was busy congratulating the blissful newlyweds. At the moment the wedding music began, he heard the voice that had haunted his soul for years say, "I do." He left quietly in despair. "Helen, I regret it.